Time stops as I stand at your door. I'm losing focus, lost it all. We had
Hey guys, thanks for joining. Today we have Richard. He is a senior transportation manager at L'Oreal. I am so blessed to have him on today's call. He's a dear friend of mine from J&J. And since J&J, wow, that was like probably 5 years, 4 years ago. We've gone through
That long? I
that
thought that was
long.
3 years ago. Was
3
it?
years ago? Oh
Yeah.
gosh, time has really flown by. But since we met in J&J, we have we've just had our separate paths. So
hmm
we're super excited to be here. I'm gonna just double check to make sure if people can hear you. Richard, do you mind saying something?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Richard from L'Oreal.
Awesome. I think we are good. And then in the flip side, hey Vincent, thanks for joining. So how about this? We're gonna get started with today's session. This is a resume screening review.
hmm
And what this entails is Richard's gonna screen two resumes we have prepared for him, anonymized resumes, and he hasn't really deep dived into these resumes before.
No.
So this is going to be his first time reviewing these resumes. All right, let's get started. So, my name is Michelle. I'm the founder of Disclosed, and through these sessions, I host interviews with Richard, and there's a lot more on the YouTube channel if you want to take a look at who has gone on to Disclosed. But before we start, I always start with this three mandated disclaimers. One, advice on this show is not endorsed by the company, but rather the individual. So
Yeah.
everything that's discussed today, um, if Richard talks about Amazon, L'Oreal, J&J, it's not company endorsed. It's based off of our own perceptions to how the job seeking process is, and we want to give you guys the momentum for to do so. Two, um, this is a safe space for learning. So we do not endorse any personal attacks through the chat, offline, through LinkedIn, or even during these live sessions. So don't see these as personal attacks. This is all advice that we really want to give you guys for the job search. And three, it's not necessarily a disclaimer, but I would like to showcase in terms of why Richard has been chosen for today's show. He's been chosen because he's been critical in the hiring process through his past companies or in his current company. So I welcome you, Richard. Introduce yourself.
Thank you. Thank you, Michelle. I really like your disclaimer because um, not only every company is different, every hiring manager is different from what they're looking for. They have their own perspective. When they look at resumes, a lot of times, all the hiring manager have to, come together and discuss, pros and cons of each candidate and come to a conclusion. So I think it's not really a disclaimer, but it's coming from my own personal experience and all the resumes that I've been received and reviewed before. So I'm hopefully my experience can help people who is looking for jobs or who is looking to improve their resume, um, from my past hiring experience.
Awesome. And tell me more about your past hiring experience. Elaborate on that.
Sure. Well, I met Michelle at J&J. So at Johnson & Johnson, I was part of the transportation group, where I'd go to a lot of job fairs at Rutgers, to start hiring co-op for the supply chain group. I have a passion to work with the student because I graduate from Rutgers, and I really wanted to help the students from the school. And I remember back in the company, we always have two group of Penn State and Rutgers. So I wanted to recruit more Rutgers people into the company. But yeah, so that's my experience at J&J. And then I moved to Amazon Logistics for about a little bit over 1 year as account manager that do the last mile deliveries. I have experience of hiring like 200 drivers in a matter of days, and then I'm before I moved to Seattle, I landed a job for L'Oreal in New Jersey, so I can stay home and close to my family and friends. So I'm with L'Oreal for about 2 years now as a senior transportation manager.
Awesome. Thank you for giving a lot of perspective to how you've been involved in the hiring process. So, I'm going to actually go back to the J&J experience, specifically hiring for co-ops in an analyst type role. Tell
Mhm.
me more about what you look for in these candidates, soft and technical skills.
Sure. I would say different company and different department are looking for different kind of skill sets. At least from my own personal experience, back in Johnson, we really looking for somebody that has represent like the leadership skills,
Mm,
somebody who can be developed. Because for J&J, they have a lot of leadership development program, and most of the candidates choose from the co-op that they hired. So we almost treat the co-op program as on-job interview for like a
yeah.
6 months interview that we interview from both sides. Like, so you work for the company for 6 months, you learn the culture, you know what the job like. Similarly, we interview you throughout the course of 6 months to see if you are capable of becoming a future leader. And then you can apply for like the leadership development program.
Yeah. So about co-ops, internship co-ops, tell me how would you, I guess, in terms of for students who are in university, are
Mhm.
co-ops, and this is probably more for the viewers, are co-ops only for students? How do you kind of get into a co-op?
Yeah, co-op and intern are all for students.
Mm-hmm.
And the criteria usually start with the second year of college, and then you will go to the career fair
Yep.
to start, engaging with the hiring manager on the site and to see if there's any intern or co-op opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
um, for L'Oreal, for example, we hire interns, but I don't believe they, at least in my department, we don't have any co-op per se.
Gotcha.
But for J&J, they do have a lot of co-op opportunities. So different company look at differently.
Hmm.
For
Interesting.
my own perspective, I like co-op a little bit more than intern because when we look at intern, well, some companies call it different. Intern usually is for like the summer, right? When you come to a company and work for 3 4 months, and a lot of times you can't really do a lot in like 3 months during the summertime.
Gotcha.
A co-op is lasts for like a semester, so you almost like a course where when the company work with the school, you can get credit for it.
Hmm.
Um, and for that, you can learn a little bit more because you stay with the company a little bit more longer than the internship.
Gotcha. Thanks for elaborating the difference between co-ops and interns. My next question for you is, you've talked about how you've been on the other side in job fairs and career fairs. So think of these as there's a lot more students than there are hiring managers for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So so let's say you're at a career fair, you're going to talk to probably, you know, tens to hundreds of students at a, in a day or in a career session. What
Mm-hmm.
makes candidates stand out during this type of process where you're meeting candidates for 2 minutes or 2 to 5 minutes? What makes them stand out?
That's a very good question. I think it's a lot about the passion and engagement.
Hmm.
So I see a lot of students come and they don't know what they want, so they just giving out resume left and right. They just working out to the hiring manager or the teams at the job fair and ask questions,
Yeah.
and they don't really know the company well.
Hmm.
So for me, I think the candidate that really stood out for me is they really wanted to join the company. So there are students that come and be prepared about, I know about J&J, I know about your company,
Mm-hmm.
and I know about your Quido, I know
Mm-hmm.
about, what division you have. So they already come and fully prepared and wanted to join the company. And we can see from, the conversation that we have with them.
Mm-hmm.
So that really make us feel like these candidates really wanted to join and have that passion.
Cool.
And a lot of times, the student will join different career fair, and they will keep coming to us and keep talking to us, and we remember that person's face, right? Because with all the different conversations, even from sophomore, some people just start coming to business fair um, as sophomore, even though we don't hire sophomore, but they will start coming and start talking to us, show us the resume and ask us for opinion about how to improve and what can that person do to be a good candidate when they become a junior,
Mm-hmm.
right? So they prepare early, and we remember those people, right? So next year we come back, the same people come, and we remember them. So
So,
those
uh,
people really
I
stand out.
guess synonymous to a lot of viewers here, they might not go to job fairs anymore, but that's synonymous to on LinkedIn. Richard was talking about, hey, there are people who just like pass their resumes around. That's similar to messages where you ask, hey, can you refer me? Here's my resume, boom, and you put it in front of them. To Richard's point, it's not about those people don't stand out. There are a lot of those people. To stand out, you do need to do a bit of research around that company. So that's synonymous to when you go on LinkedIn, um, make sure you have a tailored message. Do a bit of research. When I say research,
Mm-hmm.
literally you can just go through their profile and copy and paste some achievement that that person has brought or that company has brought to a tailored message to that person. Hey,
Exactly.
Richard, I really like how you hired 200 truck drivers within the time span you mentioned. That's super impressive. Would you be okay if we connected? Whoa, how is that? That's going to be so
Exactly.
different
Mm-hmm.
than Richard. Here's my resume. Can you refer me to this position at L'Oreal, right?
Yep,
So
totally.
it's
It's
just,
that personal touch and that engagement, and people do see you spend the time to go through it, right? So, for example, when I walk into an interview session, I see some student was sitting there, play on their phones, and chit chatting with people. I mean, when I walk by, I can see they're texting, but there are other people who are, googling about Johnson, what does the company do? So when they come into the interview session, they are so ready for it.
yeah.
They know about, you know, it might sound like kind of stupid in a way, like they know the CEO of Johnson, like, but sometimes only those simple questions or something that you mentioned, people will realize, well, you are really passionate about joining the company,
Hmm.
because
Absolutely.
we interview probably 50 students a day. What makes the difference is those little things.
Cool. Conscious of time, it is the 13-minute mark. So what I'd like to do is transfer over to the resume screening session. For folks who have just joined, feel free to add your questions down below. I see them, and what I'll do is I'll ask Richard these questions during our one-on-one session.
So you want me to share the resume now?
Yes, please.
Okay. Uh, let's see.
Awesome. I
So
see.
I'm gonna kind of look on the left because I have another screen that I'm sharing my that resume. So
Oh, okay. That's no
um,
problem. For folks on the call, I am gonna make sure you guys can see it. Can you guys actually see the words? That's gonna be quite important. I think we're good to go.
okay.
Looks good. Awesome. So what he's gonna do is, it seems like he's gonna review it quickly. Do you want to review it silently or?
Well, I'm kind of looking at it the first time, so
Okay.
I just kind of skim through in high level,
Okay.
and then I can provide my like honest feedback.
Okay. Awesome.
Or how would you like to do it? Do you
You know,
want
no,
me
no,
to
no.
talk about it?
Do you mind if you're gonna do it silently? Do you mind like double clicking what you're reading or like highlighting, dragging your mouse?
Okay.
Yeah, I see your mouse.
I mean, for me personally, I wouldn't just put the skill set up in the front if you are the the first job that you're trying to apply.
Hmm,
I probably would put that a little bit more towards the bottom.
hmm,
Um,
interesting.
so one common uh, thing that I have seen on the resume is a lot of students are using very descriptive on their resume, which means that, for example, start cross property with property manager, and it depends on what job or what position you wanted to apply for. Most hiring manager knows what property manager does, because if you apply for something that's close to that, so a lot of times, or a lot of students, they will put something that's just almost like writing a journal. So for example, like a car salesperson will write something like I sell cars, but there's nothing that's really um, I don't see like any numbers or anything that kind of showcase what the accomplishment for this person.
Hmm. Okay. So having the accomplishments more tangible. I
More
actually,
tangible. Yep.
to clarify, I actually do like the first bullet point. I think it's a very short and sweet like bullet point. Hey, as a property manager, I manage 46 plus properties. Because you can say you're a property manager for one property versus
Mhm.
46 in your portfolio. That's very different. Um, so I actually do like the first sentence, first bullet point. It says a lot about that person in terms of how they're able to potentially manage different projects. So when you're in industry, you're not going to be managing one job. You're going to be, sorry,
Yeah.
one project. It shows that you can balance your workload.
Hmm.
Um,
And something that's measurable, like
yeah,
people like to see something that you have done that have some number tied to it, right? Something that
yeah.
can be measured. Um,
One of the things that I it seems that so I love your comment on the quantifiable metric. It is
mhm.
missing from second bullet point and third bullet point. What would help it give that quantification is talking about the number of X. So, number of relationships with key decision makers, make it a bit more tangible. The
Mhm.
other part is asking the so what. So what you scheduled and supervised operation. So what? You did it, anyone else can do it. But how did you
Exactly.
save the company money? What are
Hmm.
some of the business metrics that someone like Richard, when he reads it, he can be like, oh my gosh, he's able to save costs, make money. So what are some of those metrics, those end metrics that you could be talking more about? What do you think about that, Richard?
Yeah, that's exactly my point. So when you talk about you forge and sustain relationship with key decision makers, that for me, it's just tell me what you do, but it
Mm,
doesn't tell me like what change did you make to your
yeah,
job, like how did you improve, um, did you do any project that improve from the current status quo to uh, a process improvement? What did you do in this role to help as a property manager to help the company run better?
yeah.
um,
But
so that's
kudos to
something
this
that,
person. This person's still in, I think, college,
yep.
and he's been able to do so many entrepreneurial activities. That is
Exactly.
awesome. I love
So,
seeing that.
I just wanted to point out where it can be improved. It doesn't mean
Yeah,
that resume is not good,
yeah,
but I feel a little bit more tangible or metrics into the resume will help stand out compared to other people.
Absolutely. Cool. How about the next statement, next experience or the rest of the experience?
Yeah, similar to the first one, leasing consultants present apartments. So, like, how many do you present? Or when you, as a leasing consultant, so for example, for me, if I would write it, I would probably put something like started with 5 unit per month, and because I'm doing this and that improvement, so I was able to increase my successful rate to 20%, you know,
Ooh.
to like 7 or 10 units, per month. So
Wow.
something that's more measurable. Um,
I think you're right. I think when you're talking about the Woodmont real estate, it sounds like if there was a job posting, these three bullet points would be on the job posting. That's the responsibilities. But what
correct.
Richard has given us an example of is, well, how can we make it such that it's tangible, it's metrics driven, it's also not something where you can copy and paste onto a job posting. You can't say, oh, as a job, I'm supposed to manage five portfolio and increase it by 20%. No, that is you. That is why you're
That's
valuable.
only you.
That
Correct.
is only you. Awesome.
Yeah, promoting unoccupied property through I mean, this is great. This bullet point is great, but what is the successful rate?
The
Right?
quality.
So
Yeah.
if you put that qualification in there, that can be so good because then that really stand out saying, well, I did this promotion and I promote those property and I did it, in 3 months for 5 units. So
Yeah.
something that can be measured.
Yeah. And to your point, it's so what you promoted this. How do I know that you promoted it well? How do you measure that? If
How
you
do you do it? Yep.
yeah. So that's a great point.
And another one is it depends on what job you want to apply. So for me, my own resume,
Hmm.
every time I apply for a job, my resume is different,
Ooh.
or for different companies. For the reason because I will look at what that job is required
Hmm.
and also what that company is looking for. I would change my bullet point based on what's more important. So a lot of people or a lot of students they use same resume and just give it out to everybody. For me, I work a little. Why I do a little different. When I talk to the hiring manager just to understand or read through the job requirement or job description, I can see from the hiring manager perspective, they usually go from top to down of what they want first from the candidate, right? So from my experience, if I apply for some roles I think I really want it, I will change my resume with the uh, sequence of the bullet point to
Hmm.
kind of meet that hiring managers what they're looking for because it's all my experience, right? But a lot of times hiring manager will start looking from the top to bottom, and they might remember the first two,
Hmm.
and that will kind of stand out for them because it meets what they want as a candidate.
Gotcha. Awesome. In terms of,
Um,
I see that. So let's say that this person, if you go up, I forget what the major was. Okay, so Bachelor of Science in Managerial Economics. Um, Assuming that they might be going for an analyst role,
mhm.
what would the metrics be that you care about? Either business analyst or, supply chain analyst. What's a very useful metric to talk through to report?
Well, um, as a fresh graduate, or if I hire as a co-op, I wouldn't expect that many metrics from data analysis perspective.
Hmm.
But what I will want to look at is what kind of skill set do you have
Yeah.
for those tools. So are
Mm.
you familiar with Power BI? Are you familiar with Excel? Are you familiar with Tableau? Because those are the tools that you'll be used, in your
Mm,
job. So if you are a person who has uh, somewhat of a skill set, you don't have to be an expert, but some experience. And as a student, like you kind of review or do your own research about what's hot on the market. Let's say Tableau was like every company is using for the past couple of years. I will just go self learn or look
mm,
on YouTube and learn how to use Tableau. I mean, you don't have to be an expert, but at least you have to know the basics. So in
yeah.
your resume, you can put that and say, hey, I know Tableau, I know Power BI. I'm not advanced, but I know the basics. Compared to this person to another person that doesn't have that skill,
Mm.
that makes the difference.
And so one of our previous sessions, we talked about having skills for the sake of having skills. There's that level. Yes, I know the application, or I know Tableau. But then there's a next level of how you use Tableau in your experience, how you use it in your projects. There's another level of relevance that a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people don't usually think of. They think of, okay, I'm just gonna put all the skills that I've learned through college onto a piece of paper. And unfortunately, and I actually want to get your thoughts on this, Richard.
Sure.
Someone told me that it actually dilutes the power. So if you say you know Excel, you know Tableau, you know Microsoft Word, and you list all the Microsoft Office products, you
Mhm.
know all these different applications, Python, Java, da da da. What what is your initial perception on that? Is that good? Is that like I don't care? What's going through your head?
Yeah, well, it depends on the level
Mm-hmm.
of the job that you look into to be hired. So if you are a college student and you list all of that, I will be challenging you in the interview. I'll be asking you Tableau questions. I will be asking you Excel questions. Do you know how to run a macro? Do you know how to write codes? So you better not put that in your resume if you really don't know about it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're applying for a job that really, as a senior analyst, for example, for L'Oreal as a senior analyst, that we really need your work to be a large part that creating dashboard in Power BI or Tableau, you really need to know the tool,
Mm.
right? Um, we won't have time to train you on the job so you can learn. But as a college student, you do have that kind of luxury, or the hiring manager won't expect you know the tool extremely
Mm.
well. So as long as you list it and you know at least the basic, I think at least from the co-op perspective, um, you would have that time to learn, through the time with the company.
Wow, that's a really great point that you've mentioned there. The benefit of being a student and learning, so a fresh grad or in college versus someone who probably has 3 to 5 years of experience. You're gonna be expected to deliver, and that makes sense.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So
Um,
as a co-op, sorry.
no, go for it. As a
Yeah.
co-op.
So as a co-op, when I was mentoring or helping a co-op, I don't expect the person to know everything.
Yeah.
So I will spend my time to mentor and help that person to be familiar or to grow, because that is what co-op is, right? So you come into the company, like I said, you interview us and we interview you, and you learn from the professional world what a work in real world look like, and then you learn.
Yeah.
But if you are applying for a full-time position when you are 2 years, 3 years, 5 years into a job market, people expect you to start delivering on the first day. I mean, sometimes people say, yeah, you have a honeymoon for a month. I haven't had that experience. Every
Oh,
company I go to is you jump right into it.
you know what? I think it's because when they open the position up, they're already in this I should have hired yesterday kind of mood.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, Well, that's
So you should be ready when if you're already in the work market and you're looking for your next job. Don't think you have a time where you can learn and learn the culture. You might have 3 days, but then they will start expecting you to just start delivering.
absolutely. Absolutely. And some companies are different. And I think Amazon, L'Oreal, they're very fast paced environments. But
Mhm.
there are other companies where even when you join, they have a period of onboarding. Not all companies have that, but some companies are luxurious enough to, hey, here's a bit of onboarding, but you do need to start churning out projects immediately.
Yeah.
Awesome. How about the rest of the resume? So we've talked about some of the skills. This person, let's say, is going into an analyst role. So,
Yeah, I mean, for the personal project, I think this part it's much well, I won't say much better, but it appeared a little bit more standout compared to the experience, right? Because there's a
yeah.
lot of good description plus numbers, and impressive numbers. Like when you said 1.5 million followers, you have 500 million views and over 200 million. Like those, like people have numbers stuck in their head, and if you just said accumulate a lot of followers,
Hmm.
or I have a lot of followers or many followers, that doesn't really translate to anything.
Yeah.
So I think the personal project is actually uh, doing
I
very good.
I think, and Richard, you let me know as well. I think they should actually switch the projects and I once you see that, like, I have 1.5 million followers, I have original content with 500 million views. Whoa, you remember this person, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
But what do you think? Do you think that this person should switch for an analyst role? They should switch their personal projects and experience, or how do you feel about that?
Um, well, no, because if for an analysis role, the project or personal project still not as relevant
Mm,
to the professional experience. So what I would do is I would use the same methodology on the personal project and apply to the experience. I mean, the experience is pretty good, but if you are applying for an analyst role, you need to show analyst skills.
hmm.
But in the experience description, this has nothing really related to like any analyst. Like, what did you do as a property manager? Did you analyze anything? Did you do any data crunch? Did you use the data to come up with any process improvement? Um, those kind of things that you need to, because you're applying for analyst role.
Hmm.
If you apply for account manager role, then that's different, right? Then if you're applying for account manager role, then yeah, I probably will put personal project more on the top, because it's more relevant.
Ooh, interesting. So, for folks who are not familiar with account managers, Richard, would you be able to give a one sentence description of what account managers do? How is that different from analysts? Sum up your life
Um,
in one sentence. Go. I'm joking,
well,
but
no problem. So account manager, it can be mean a lot of different positions or meanings for different companies. Um, but for the most part, account manager means that you have to either internally you have to manage different accounts, or if you are outer facing, if you working with customers, or if you working with um, different stakeholders, then you can also be called as an account manager. So back in Amazon, when I was account manager, I was working alongside and managing. Um, they call it a DSP. So basically, is a smaller trucking company who using those Amazon vans, driving around your neighborhood and deliver your package. And a lot of those drivers are not working directly for Amazon. They were working for a third party company, and I was the account manager in a way to manage those accounts.
mm, Interesting. I think it's quite different in the sales world, where there's
Yeah,
also the account managers in the sales profession.
exactly.
A bit different because one is internal account management. The other
Right.
one is I'm going to manage my external client's account and
hmm
grow. And the metric with sales, obviously,
Right.
is
Yep.
top line growth.
hmm
So that's a different, and I think the personal projects, if this person were to go for an account manager role, would be phenomenal because
I
account
agree.
they essentially have to drive results. That's your
Yep.
ultimate goal as an account manager, not the hey, I need to data crunch. It's let's focus on metrics, let's focus on the results that you were able to get.
Yeah, like for example, the seller as a eBay online retailers.
Yeah.
So maybe he has his own company, and he was able to sell 300% in profit margin per item. I think that's fantastic. Um, and then he was able to gaining over 30,000 followers and make 50,000 profit. Why would he find a job? Like he should just continue doing
Richard,
it.
your first question
Right?
when you interview this person is like, are you sure you want to work for industry?
If you can do that in like I don't know how he didn't say the time. So
Yeah.
yeah, actually like he should probably put the time frame like I make 50,000 in a month or in a year in
Oh
five
man.
years
Yeah.
because that would make a difference, right? But in a way, if like he put I make that in I don't know even 1 year as a
As a student
as a
too.
student,
Oh
that
my
is
gosh.
fantastic,
Yeah,
isn't it?
it absolutely is. And it's not just that. He seems to be, or she, sorry, or, whatever pronoun you'd like to use, they're using like, it feels very hustly in the personal
hmm
projects. And I really like that for sales, for account management, because sometimes you're just not going to have resources and you still need to deliver. Scrappy. That's the word I was looking for. But yeah, sometimes you just have to do the things that you do. But yeah,
But
sorry, go for
coming,
it.
no problem. So, but coming back,
Yeah.
those are all result.
hmm
So this is all what happened. What's missing is how did he get there, right? So if this person can put a little bit description of when he market and brand items based on consumer appeals, getting over that much profit, how did he do it, right? Because what we or what hiring manager like to know is not yes, you have a fantastic result. That's great. But how did you get there?
Mm,
Right? That's another point that I think can be a good bullet point in the resume to show the thinking process or the improvement process from 0 to 100.
yeah. Yeah. No, that's a great point. Conscious of time, we're at the 38-minute mark. Um, and I think overall, I want you to summarize what do you feel about this candidate as an analyst or as an account manager? What is your initial thought? Holistically, let's say this was passed on to you.
Mm, based on the experience, I probably would put this more in the middle tier,
hmm
just because there's a lot of missing, we call it KPI or missing metrics that really tells me, what he does. It's very descriptive, but what really stand out is really the personal projects, right? So as if he's looking for account manager role, I will put personal project on top of experience for
hmm
sure, and just add a little bit more color to it, like how,
How?
how, right?
Yeah.
It's how and what, and he have the what, but he doesn't have the how.
He has an impact too, so the why he has, I guess, as
Oh, yeah,
well. So good. Yeah, that's a great point though. Awesome. It seems like for account manager, he's like up there for
I would think so.
an interview. Okay, awesome. That's great. Let's move on to the next one. And let's assume that this one is also an analyst type role. Um, if we feel that there's an account manager type element to it, let's talk about it as well. So he's currently watching, looking through the
Yeah. So
experience.
so you can see like most people, I would say in like on the resume, it's all have like very similar kind of descriptive resume.
Hmm.
Like with this person is the same. They perform this finance model and internal bond test, and then present key credit review updates to top and middle management. Like anybody can do that,
Hmm.
right? So what make you different? Um, Major tenant to protect the agency from default contract. The last one again, like slash credit review times of tenant contractors by 32% throughout the. See, this is what I'm looking for.
That's a perfect bullet point for you.
Perfect example, right?
Mm.
Um, and he's saying that he did reduce 32% through automation and creation of scorecard template.
So the
So
how
as
is
an
right there.
analyst, yeah,
The
as an
impact's there.
analyst,
Yeah.
this is what I'm looking for the last bottom. So if I'm this person, I probably move this to the first one.
Wow.
Um, and similar to other ones, I mean, yeah, you can't have everything that has a number to it, but for the most part, you should have some kind of improvements or metrics to show why you are fit for this job or what did you do to make this job different
Hmm.
than other people. um,
So let's take the first bullet point. Let's do an exercise together. How would you improve it? Let's say this was your bullet point. I know you're not a financial planning and analyst intern at Port Authority, but let's say that you are and you're writing this resume. How would you reshape the first sentence? So, for folks who are online and just listening, the first bullet point is perform due diligence for financial models and internal bond tests to determine capital capacity mix and amount. How would you, let's do an exercise. How would you reword that?
um, I I will probably put a time frame and how many. Um, are you doing once a week or once a month?
Hmm.
Um, to determine capital capacity mix and amount. So have if I was in this role during the work, I was thinking about what can I do to improve the time that I have to do these models and test. So, for example, if it used to take me um, a whole day to
Hmm.
complete a modeling or the internal bond test, and because I did such and such, and I reduced that time to 6 hours. So it used to take 8 hours. Now it's going to take 6 hours because I done this improvement.
Yep.
Um, so those are something that I will put on
Yeah,
as a first bullet point.
that's solid. The other part I want to add is probably the why behind why was it important to determine capital capacity mix and amount. Just put that into perspective. Hey, this was actually for us to generate X percent of savings for the company, or have a prediction modeling that can accurately predict with, I don't know, 95% confidence. So talk about, I think what's missing is the so what. And also, you can also talk about the quality. How can you determine the quality of your financial models? Um, so,
Because why do you need to do a due
yeah,
diligence,
yeah.
right? Because they must have some certain percentage that's not accurate, or you need to do a due diligence to
Hmm.
to test.
Yeah,
Um,
Absolutely. So, three things just to summarize what's been discussed. How can you take that first bullet point, perform due diligence for financial models and internal bond tests to determine capital, capacity, mix, and amount? Three things that we're suggesting. One, how did you improve your own time management? So, that's one of the metrics that we're evaluating for. Two, talk about the impact of what you did. Three, talk about the quality of the financial models and internal bond tests you did. To Richard's point, due diligence. How do you quantify that? So
Hmm.
focus on those three aspects. Those are really great ways to ramp up your resume. Awesome. Let's go through the rest of the experience and kind of the projects.
So let's go through the next one. So creating a system. Like this person is getting better and better, right? I don't know because he's writing it and he starts thinking, oh, okay, so I cut grading time and exam preparation time by an average of 1.8 hours by standardizing course material. Increase class average by 5%. So like I don't know, maybe he like when he was writing the resume, he's like, oh, maybe I need to put some quantifiable metrics in here. And I keep saying quantifiable metrics because that is what shows the difference between you and the other candidate.
Mm-hmm.
Because everybody writing a very descriptive resume, everybody, right? And that's usually how we start.
Yeah,
When we think about applying for a job or when we thinking about writing something that we do, we just kind of draw it as my diary. Or I woke up today at 8 and I ate breakfast.
it's like the
I drive to
process.
school.
Yeah.
Right. And everybody write the same. So my neighbor drive to work at 8:30 and I drive to work at 8. So what's the difference between me and that person?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So the difference is, well, I'm going to use a week or a Google map to see if I can get there faster every day by reduce, I don't know,
Yeah.
20% of my travel so I can sleep more or I can spend more time on eating.
I love
Um,
that.
so that would make my travel different than my neighbor. And people show the difference like, okay, I can wake up and go to work every day and it can be the same thing for the rest of my life, or I can do something different. Maybe
Hmm.
today I use Google Map and try a different route and see if that will be faster. Or maybe I will leave 10 minutes earlier to
Yeah.
see if that will get me to an office faster or slower,
Yeah.
by trying different things.
Huh.
And
Interesting.
I will put that in the resume because even something that you fail, but you learn from the mistake and you can still quantify why you fell or why you learn,
Ooh.
that can still be a good bullet point because people can see you are willing to try and what you learn from that trying, even though you fail.
I love that. I When you think about resumes, I always think about what are the things that you succeeded. But you're right. It's about a learning process and how quickly you can bounce back and learn from your mistakes. So that's a really good point, Richard.
So going down to the next. So as a grading assistant, he's great. The
Yeah.
second the two bullet points is making a good improvement, right? Um,
I think overall, can we, for the sake of today's session, do you mind
mhm.
like skimming through the rest and
Okay.
providing your overall feedback for this person?
I think the second resume has a little bit more and better content compared to the first, um, just because the way he put it, and he has a little bit more content in the resume.
Hmm.
Um, But if to my like personal honest feedback, I think there's still a lot of room for improvement for both resumes.
How would you summarize if you were in front of this person? What are the top three things, this resume in particular, what are the
Mhm.
top three things that you would challenge them to think about when rewriting their resume? Three key
Well,
pieces of advice.
um, well, it depends on what if this person is looking for an analyst role. The first one is you need to show a little bit more on your resume about your analyst skill set or experience.
Hmm.
Um, the second one, I will probably um, shorten a little bit more on the skill set, similar to what you were just talking about, where when you put too many and people start thinking like, you try to impress somebody, but are you really that good with all that stuff when you are a college student?
Hmm.
So you also wanted to be like more sincere of what you really know, because a lot of times a hiring manager might challenge you through the interview, and if you don't know the answer, then that discount your
Credibility.
credibility.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, one thing, and this might be just me. I really, for some reason, I actually don't like it in the skills that you talk about: leadership, teamwork, communication, structure building, and problem solving skills. I actually don't like it. The reason, and let me explain why I don't like it. It's because number one, it's not quantifiable. And number two, I should be able to see that in your experience. Leadership means that you're able to drive decisions with a cohort of diverse thinking. Do I see that in your experience? No? Then why are you saying that's a skill? So that's the first thing I would start thinking. Like,
Hmm.
are you just putting these words on your resume to beat the ATS system, which we will not talk about today? But are you what is the point of having these skills if you don't represent them in your experience? So that's initially like why I don't like the soft skills. But Richard, what are your thoughts on that?
Exactly. So that's why I was focusing on the skills, because it kind of be a little bit too much, like what you mentioned it before, what we talked about before.
Hmm.
Um, Skills, at least at current level, like when you are a student,
Yeah.
you don't need to list out all the skills. And very important, like the second bullet point, like what you said, all these skills should be representing in your experience or your project. So I do have times get a resume where that person has no working experience, right? And he comes to me and say, "Hey, Richard, um, I haven't really have working experience. I only have some internship. So what can I land a job?" And I said, "Well, have you be um, in a leadership position in sorority or fraternity? In any of the thing, can you be a volunteer in a nonprofit and start organize something?"
Hmm.
um, all this can represent as a leadership skills, right? It
Hmm.
doesn't have to be a job. You
Right.
can showcase your leadership skills in anywhere, even with you volunteer for a school, and organize an event where the fundraising that you invite 300 vendors come into a school yard or a basketball court, and we do a fundraising event. We send out invitation, invite 1,000 people, and we make $20,000 in one night for benefit of the children, right? Those, it doesn't have to be a work related, but even a one-time event that can really show that how much you have done and what kind of leadership skill you have, uh, using your either project or experience.
Absolutely. I love that. So you don't have to have relatable internship experience, paid experience. You can always talk about some of your passion projects and experience in terms of the events you were able to, the accomplishments that you were able to drive throughout your college experience. Love it. I think the last thing I wanted to put, and this is a question of how to showcase awards. I have no idea that like what is for especially the awards? I don't know how competitive the award is. So if you want a scholarship, talk about how many of you were chosen. You were the top 10 finalists out of 200. You were the top 10 out of 10,000. Those two are very different in the distinction levels. So sometimes I am not aware of the awards. I don't know how big the competition is, how
Mhm.
competitive it is. So give me a distinction that I would recognize. 10 out of 2,000. Well, I get that. Or, those are the quantifiable metrics where it would be very much related to me.
Yeah,
That's
and
just, yeah,
also, sorry,
go for it.
and also depends on the job you're applying,
Hmm.
right? Like for skill set and awards and activities, bilingual is good. I am bilingual, but would I put that on my resume if I applied for analyst role? Probably not, right? Or would I put I'm the Federation first degree black belt? Like, would that be relevant to an analyst role? I
I think that's
probably
pretty cool. I think it's
it's
pretty cool. Like,
cool, but
I'd
is
be like,
that related to the work that you're applying for?
hmm,
If you are finance organization vice president and you're applying for something related to finance or analyst, yeah, yes, I would say let it keep there. And another thing that I think people have a comment thing is I want to fill my resume to the
mm,
fullest. I don't want it to look so empty. So I will put whatever that I have in there. So I would jam everything into my resume so it look like full page.
mm,
Sometimes it's good, but not every time. You need to be careful of what you put on there because
fair.
people read it and it might be against you, right?
Oh,
As a college student, you don't need to have a full page of experience and resumes. It's okay. When you go into your job, when you start growing in your career path, you're gonna find that you have to trim a lot of your experience and things on your resume because you've been going through all different phases in your career.
hmm,
But as a first resume, you don't have to worry about I need to like make sure I have a full resume that is full page. I don't have any space.
oh,
So
I know those feelings where you're reading it and you feel like you can't breathe because it's just like so packed. It's
yeah,
okay.
unless
So you're
you
saying it's
yeah,
okay to have space.
it's okay to have space.
Yeah.
Yeah, it depends on what stage in your career, right? So if you are, applying for a director, VP, you have to have a lot of experience. And whether that experience is with one company or with multiple companies, you're probably gonna find you can't really fit in like 3 pages
Yeah.
because all the experience you have. So you start going to trim a lot of things that is not relevant. You're
Okay.
gonna start just focus on the job that you're applying for.
Yeah.
But as a college student, you don't have to do that.
Awesome. Conscious of time, so we are at the 58-minute mark. We only have 2 minutes left of our session. Um, Richard, do you mind to stop screen sharing
Sure.
while we conclude the remainder of our talk? So the last thing I want to end with is Richard, in terms of the audience, we typically have, I would say, a lot of early career professionals and some who are transitioning their career into, let's say, a new industry or a new career path. What would you say to those folks if you were to leave one nugget from this session? What would that nugget be?
Can you elaborate that? Like,
Yeah. So for folks who are watching the session, if you, let's say, one piece of advice that has taken you to this point, that has motivated you to this point,
mhm,
that you want the viewers to leave with, what piece of advice do you want the viewers to leave
mhm.
with?
I think probably everybody say the same, but I'm gonna say it again. You just need to do something that you really love because that passion will last for a long way, and also it will show when you go to your interview. You will show when you start writing your resume because when people have heart about things that they love, it will show from your conversation. You show out from your writing. So if you don't like the current job, if you don't like the industry you're in, then you probably at an early time in your career, it's okay to jump to a different field and find something that you really like. I didn't start for myself. I didn't start thinking about supply chain. I was computer science major and I graduated with computer science background, but I'm in supply chain since I started my first job, and I still learning every single day on the supply chain, especially for the current market. As everybody know, when we don't have toilet paper in Costco or we don't have stuff on our shelves, it's all relevant to supply chain. And especially those pandemic times, the supply chain interruption is so dynamic. I feel like even with more than 10 plus year experience, I still don't know what I'm doing today. I'm still learning. I'm still trying to problem solving. I still trying to firefight for the company and try to solve problems and trying to put our stuff on the shelf. So do something that you really enjoy and really love will really have a long career for you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Richard. It was such a pleasure having you in our Disclosed live session. For folks who are looking for jobs, look, we have lots of videos and lots of resources available to you. An example is this hour session with Richard, where he shared literally what he's looking for from candidates. And we actually even walk through how to improve tangibly. Here's a bullet point. How would you have reshaped it? Go, Richard. We did something like that today, which is very unique from the rest of our sessions. Hopefully you'll take this to your own resume and apply it when you're looking for jobs.
Yeah, don't use the same resume for every job.
Yes, and that too.
Make sure you understand what the job requires and what the hiring manager is looking for, and change or update or revise your resume based on that. So don't just save one resume and say I'm done
and spam it to everyone.
And spam everyone. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Richard, and thank you guys for joining today. I will see you guys tomorrow. Next week.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
With the safety pin, you and I, we got so high, kissed like heroin. We had that young love, we had that young love. The kind that cuts you up inside my blood was your love. We had that you jump and I'm jumping, crazy kind of something. Love. We had that young love, 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 we had that young love.
I haven't spoken to you, haven't seen you in months. Too busy living, so we fell out of touch. I didn't think I had to let you know we were done. We weren't together, so how could we break up? You got the chance to tell everybody aside. It's my turn to tell them mine. You came to my place a couple of times, got high and you slept over. Just a few days, just a few nights. You and I were never sober. If you wanted something more, then you should have asked. Would you please stop acting like the ex I never had? I'm checking my text, I'm reading them back. We were cool, at least I thought so. Seeing all this and hearing all that, we were good, but I guess we're not though. It was never everybody aside. It's my turn to tell them mine.